Let's be very clear about what just happened. Donald J. Trump, sitting president of the United States, just froze federal funds that are tied directly to the state of Minnesota. And that alone should pretty much tell you that this is no longer some normal political story. This is escalation, because here's the part they didn't expect. This didn't start with a government report. It didn't come from a committee hearing. It didn't come from the media. It started with Nick Shirley, a camera, public records, and questions nobody wanted asked. And once those questions went viral, Governor Tim Walz, Minnesota, it went from background noise to ground zero almost overnight. That's when the walls started closing in. And this is also when Washington stopped ignoring it. And this is when the panic began. Then Elon Musk weighed in. Then Ted Cruz demanded answers. And then the media started suddenly remembering that this story even existed. And now, after the threats, the scrambling, the silence, and all of a sudden the policy moves, here we are. A local issue didn't just go national, it crossed the line. So tonight, we're going to go ahead and break down exactly why President Trump just pulled the plug, why Minnesota matters, why this went further than anyone even planned, and why this moment didn't just change the rules of how power reacts, but they react when the public sees something that it wasn't supposed to see. Guys, this is not just about one video anymore. This is about control, and that control just slipped. Hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. All right. Here's the moment that the ground shifted. A single investigation out of Minnesota forced the hand of President Donald J. Trump, and that's not something that happens by accident. In fact, this wasn't a routine audit. This wasn't an opposition hit. This wasn't a partisan leak. This was an independent journalist by the name of Nick Shirley walking into publicly funded facilities, pulling public records, and asking questions the system assumed no one would ask. That's when it stopped being local. Once the video exploded, Governor Tim Walz's administration went from let's just say dismissive silence to defensive posture almost overnight. And that right there, it came from the escalation, a federal funding freeze ordered by Trump himself. Now, that right there, that's the line you just don't cross unless something has fundamentally changed. Now, this is the inflection point, okay? A moment where a state level controversy became a national credibility test, a moment where the federal government signaled that what happened in Minnesota could no longer be treated as business as usual. And once that signal was sent, there was no going back. And this is where everything changed. What made Nick Shirley's video impossible to bury wasn't the outrage. It was the evidence. Empty facilities, locked doors, no children, no staff, and then the receipts, licensing records, addresses, registrations, all laid out without commentary or spin. There was no narration telling viewers what to think, just visual proof and public documents side by side. That's why it detonated. Before a single politician issued a statement, before Tim Walz went on defense, before federal agencies weighed in, the internet had already done the math. And the speed mattered. Within hours, the footage spread faster than the official talking points could even keep up with. Washington didn't respond because it wanted to. Washington responded because it had to. Now, this wasn't ideology driving engagement. It was credibility collapsing in real time. And the silence before the response made it even worse. And by the time the officials spoke, the narrative had already locked in. Something was wrong, and everybody could see it. That's when the system realized it had lost control of the story. And to really understand why this exploded, you have to understand how Minnesota's child care funding actually works and why it immediately triggered federal concern. Minnesota administers child care assistance through a mix of state oversight and federal dollars. Now, that federal component right there is key. Once federal funds are involved, the standards change, reporting requirements tighten, oversight expectations increase, and failures, they don't stay local for long. And this is why Governor Tim Walz's administration suddenly found itself under pressure. Not because anyone had proven criminal intent, but because the safeguards don't appear to be catching obvious red flags. Licensing approvals, address clustering, facility verification, basic follow-up questions that should have been routine suddenly looked optional. And when those systems fail, Washington notices that. Now, this was not about accusing Minnesota of wrongdoing. It was actually about unanswered questions piling up real fast, and there was no credible explanation arriving in time. Oversight gaps don't need intent to become dangerous. They just need neglect. And that is how a state program quietly turns into a federal problem. And that's when escalation becomes inevitable. And this is exactly why oversight matters, not just in state programs, but in your own personal life too. Because here's what most people don't even realize until it's too late. A man paid $22 for his medication one year, and then the next year, $87. Same drug, same pharmacy, nothing changed except his Medicare plan year. That quiet switch cost him hundreds before he even noticed it. And this is exactly how it usually happens. No warning, no alert, just money leaking out month after month because no one reviewed the fine print. This is why I partnered with Chapter, folks. Chapter reviews your Medicare coverage line by line for free for the Ron Yates community, so prescription costs don't blindside your budget the way state oversight failures blinded Minnesota. Different scale, but the same problem. Nobody watches the details. Now, most people, they're already dialing the phone number at the bottom of your screen right there, 909-563-8279, or they're clicking the link down below in the description of this video, askchapter.org/Ron, to make sure that they're not overpaying. Because, whether it's federal dollars or your own personal retirement money, what doesn't get reviewed gets abused. And when President Donald J. Trump froze federal funds tied to Minnesota's child care programs, that wasn't a press stunt. Presidents don't just do this casually. They don't do it without understanding the ripple effects. A funding freeze is leverage. It signals that the federal government believes existing oversight mechanisms failed or at least can't be trusted until they're reviewed. It also forces compliance, cooperation, and transparency immediately. And it also puts every other state on notice. This wasn't about punishment. This was about control. Trump's move told governors nationwide in all 50 states, if federally backed programs show signs of systemic breakdown, Washington will intervene fast. No committees, no drawn out studies, immediate pressure. And this is why this moment matters beyond Minnesota, because once the precedent is set, it doesn't disappear. Funding can be restored, sure, but trust cannot. And states running similar programs suddenly had to ask themselves a dangerous question. If Minnesota can be frozen, well, who's next? This is when this stopped being symbolic. That's when it became structural. You see, once federal funds were frozen in Minnesota, the question immediately stopped being about, well, what happened here? And it became more about, could this be happening elsewhere? Yeah. And that's where the story quietly turned dangerous for the entire country. No one's declaring guilt beyond Minnesota. That matters. But when a federally backed program shows signs of structural weakness, oversight gaps, verification failures, delayed responses, federal agencies are now obligated to ask whether those same vulnerabilities exist in other states. And this is how national reviews begin. Programs don't need identical facts to share identical flaws. If the system relies on self-reporting, limited inspections, or reactive enforcement, the risk multiplies fast. And once President Donald J. Trump demonstrated a willingness to intervene directly, the incentive to wait and see, that vanished. This is why governors across the country went quiet, because this wasn't about one state embarrassing itself. This was about exposing a model that may have been trusted for too long with too little scrutiny. Minnesota wasn't just ground zero, it was the test case. So when Elon Musk stepped into the story, everything accelerated. Musk doesn't amplify noise. He amplifies signals, moments where systems fail in ways that affect trust at scale. This is why Elon Musk's reaction mattered more than a dozen cable news segments. I mean, he wasn't offering an opinion, he was signaling that something structurally important was unfolding. And once Musk amplified it, the story escaped every traditional filter. Look, millions of people who never watch a local Minnesota report suddenly saw it. Not framed, not softened, just exposed. Now that forced a recalculation across media, politics, and government, because Musk's involvement does one thing extremely well. It removes plausible deniability. You can dismiss a journalist, you can delay a press response, you cannot pretend the issue doesn't exist once the world's most visible tech executive is asking questions. And this is why the coverage changed tones overnight. The story wasn't going viral anymore, it was being validated. When Ted Cruz stepped in, the story crossed another line. Up until that point, this has been investigation, reaction, and damage control. Cruz's involvement marked the shift from exposure to consequence, because when a U.S. senator starts asking questions publicly, the issue is no longer cultural or viral, it's legislative. Ted Cruz didn't treat this as a one-off scandal. He treated this as a systems problem overnight. Accountability, federal safeguards, the kinds of questions that don't disappear once the news cycle moves on. And that's what made state officials nervous, because hearings lead to subpoenas. Subpoenas lead to records. Records don't care about narratives. They care about timelines, approvals, and who signed off. This is where the story stopped being about a video and it started becoming about policy exposure. Once Cruz framed it that way, it forced everyone else to pick a side, investigate, or defend the process as is. And that's a very dangerous choice to choose from, come when the public already smells smoke. The media response told its own story. At first, there was silence, then deflection, then cautious coverage that avoided specifics. And then finally, after President Donald J. Trump froze federal funds and Elon Musk amplified the issue, the scramble began. Not to explain what went wrong, but to control how people understood it. All of a sudden, headlines focused on tone, not facts, on motives, not records, on who was allowed to ask questions instead of whether the questions were valid. That's the telltale sign. Because if the facts were solid, they would lead with them. The delay mattered, the hesitation mattered, and the pivot mattered most of all. When coverage lags behind events this badly, it signals fear of where the story goes next, not confidence in the answers. This is what narrative collapse looks like. Not outrage, not rebuttal, but confusion. And confusion is exactly what happens when a system realizes that it can't put the lid back on. And so as the story escalated, something even darker followed. It really deserves to be handled carefully and factually. So Nick Shirley, he reported receiving threats after his investigation went viral. Not criticism, not rebuttals, threats. And while law enforcement has not publicly detailed the scope or the origin of these messages, the reality is very simple. Intimidation enters when exposure hits the nerves. Now, this wasn't about disagreement. It was about pressure. Independent journalists don't have security teams. They don't have corporate legal buffers. They have a camera, public records, and whatever personal risk comes with asking the wrong questions at the wrong time to the wrong people. And that risk, it increases dramatically when powerful interests feel cornered. So what matters here isn't sensationalism, it's precedent. If exposing publicly funded programs results in threats instead of transparency, well, that sends a very chilling message to anybody who's watching. It tells future whistleblowers to think twice about saying anything, to stay quiet, to look away. And when fear becomes the enforcement mechanism, accountability quietly disappears. That is the real cost of exposure. Now, whenever federal funds and oversight failures collide, one institution inevitably enters the conversation. The FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, this is not about accusing the FBI of misconduct. This is about asking an uncomfortable but necessary question. How many warning signs does a system need before intervention becomes unavoidable? Now, historically, the FBI gets involved after patterns emerge, but not before. That means red flags are often visible long before action is taken. Paper trails, licensing anomalies, complaints, data that doesn't quite add up. The Bureau doesn't create problems, it reacts to them. And that's the issue. If oversight failures persist until exposure goes viral, then enforcement is already late. Now, this doesn't imply malice, it just implies structural lag. A system designed to respond and not prevent, which kind of raises the core question at the heart of this whole story. Were the safeguards sufficient or were they assumed to be? Because once federal agencies step in, the focus shifts real fast from optics to accountability, and accountability has a memory. And so the reason that this story sent shockwaves through state governments isn't politics, it's precedent. Every state in the country runs federally backed programs, childcare, healthcare, housing, education, and most of them actually rely on the same basic assumption. If nothing goes visibly wrong, the funding keeps flowing. Now, what President Donald J. Trump just did in Minnesota shattered that assumption, because now there's a recent real-world example of federal funds being frozen fast, not after years of hearings, not after endless audits, but after public scrutiny exposed oversight questions that had not been answered. Now, that changes the risk calculus overnight. Governors and agency heads, they don't fear accusations, they fear uncertainty. If Minnesota can be paused, reviewed, and pressured publicly, then no state can assume immunity. Silence becomes dangerous, delay becomes costly, and we'll look into that later, suddenly stops being a viable strategy. So this is why phones lit up across state capitals, not because everyone is guilty, but because everyone is vulnerable. Now, here's the reality that nobody can walk back, okay? Funding freezes can be reversed, reviews can conclude, statements can be issued, but precedents, they don't disappear. And the precedent that's set here under Donald J. Trump now in 2026, this is permanent. A viral investigation just led by an independent journalist forced federal action. Public trust bypassed traditional gatekeepers, political figures reacted after the public reached its own conclusions, and the federal government responded not with words, but with leverage. That sequence matters. because it means that future scandals won't wait for permission. They won't rely on legacy coverage. They won't slow down for official narratives. The public now expects evidence first and consequences second. Now, this is not about Minnesota anymore. This is about a brand new reality where visibility creates accountability, where silence accelerates suspicion, and where power no longer controls the timeline. This is why this moment is not fading. Everything just changed, and it ain't changing back.